I think by this point we just know that I'm behind with all reviews and that I don't actually review something when it just comes out. Let's go. I saw Into the Spider-Verse just after Christmas, and that is one of the best films that exists on the planet. I loved it. It was amazing, and I want to talk about it. Finally, I wrote this review as soon as I got home from the cinema, and here we are, a month later, just being my terrible, non-organised self as usual. This is going to be spoilery, but please, Into the Spider-Verse is so good. It's so good. I know so many people that were not even going to see it, and then they went to see it not even being Marvel fans or comic book fans or Spider-Man fans, and they bloody loved it. So please go and see this movie. It's so good. Please. I don't want to spoil you, but there you go. It's amazing. Okay, bye. Hello, spoiler people that have seen this wonderful movie. Okay, so first of all, I just want to say that the animation, which is the most obvious thing to point out, but is so wonderful, was so wonderful. I thought that it was, because it was like a comic book. It was animated like a comic book. It felt like a comic book had come to life. It felt like Spider-Man comics were there and just coming to life, and the whole thing, and it was just so well done, and the way it moved, it was just so clever. I haven't never seen animation like it. I just thought it was so well done and so fantastic, and I absolutely loved the whole animation when we had some of the speech bubbles that came up and the noises. Thwip is one of my favourite things in the Spider-Man comic books. Like, that noise is just exactly the noise. It's just so good. And the way that the camera the way it was moving with the characters felt also like a comic book, and how when things were going up, you were kind of going down, so it looked like it was, but it's just so good. It was so cleverly done, and I'm so glad they thought to do it that way, because it was just such, it felt like a comic book. It felt like a comic book movie, because that's what it was, and it was so well done. And also because obviously Miles does not live in our universe, Peter B. Parker is our Spider-Man that we know and love, that guy. Miles' universe was different. They were not called the NYPD, they were called the PDNY. I think the month is different on the top of something that he does in school. The dollar currency is definitely very different. And if you look in Times Square, things felt like our world, but they were a little bit different. The names of things were a little bit different, and it was all just slightly off, because it was just like, it was not our universe, and there was just little things that kept flashing up and coming up to remind us of that, and it was done so well because it was so subtle but still so very much there. I've seen so many people say, why was it called PDNY? Did the NYPD not let them use the name? And like, because it felt so kind of within the story, but it was just so well done, I think. I absolutely loved that. Miles was amazing. Like, to have that whole sort of everything that came with him kind of not fitting into what he wanted to do, having that uncle figure that was sort of the person that he went to and helped with that, and kind of his need, kind of him, he's sort of like not quite fitting in, and then finding what he needs to do even if that's not exactly what he needed to do. It was just, his whole character was just really good, and I really liked the way they kind of explored his character arc and who he was, because he is still so young, but kind of he knows who he is, but kind of getting that leap of faith to be that before he even becomes Spider-Man, before he even has to have that particular leap of faith, to the things he wants to do, and kind of trying to get to know his parents and fit with his parents, because he does different things to what they are thinking. And his art, that whole thing, that's who he is, and he's trying to get people to see that. He's trying to express that side of him and show people what he can do, and his dad starts to realise that near the end as well, and I really liked that. I liked that kind of him being able to be Spider-Man and then his dad working with him also was shown in their relationship as well, and his dad kind of supporting what he was doing. And I just thought that it was kind of his personal life and his Spidey life kind of going alongside each other, and him wanting to be who he is, and it was just done very well. And also I loved seeing Peter Parker, like our Peter Parker, like grow up and struggle with what has happened, because he went through a lot when he was very young and so much happened, and in the comic books, if you follow him as he gets older, he is dealing with lots of things, and I like that they put that in there. I liked how they flipped all the different people and they were like, okay, I'm going to tell this one more time, and they showed all the different stories. That basic story of Spider-Man was there with every single one of them. They had someone that they lost. We had Gwen, who had lost Peter B. Parker, who lost Ben and lost MJ. We had Peter Parker, like the blonde guy, who lost Ben as well. Penny lost her dad, Miles obviously loses his uncle, and then Spider-Noir, we had Spider-Ham. They've all lost someone. There was all some loss, and they all had to overcome that, and they were all kind of coming together to help Miles with dealing with that and to help him with that. But I liked that intrinsic story of Spider-Man, that we had that intrinsic, what happens in that story was present in all of them, but in so many different ways, and it was explored in so many different ways, and they dealt with it in so many different ways. And that was just really interesting, because it shows that it's such a universal thing, and that so many people deal with loss and grief and dealing with that, but that people do it in different ways, and even sort of the same people, really, not really, but you know what I mean, explore that in different ways. And I just thought that was done really well, and I thought that that was a topic which I'm really glad kind of they were all dealing with, they all understood, and they were all able to come together to help Miles with that, but then also to help each other, and how they all got through that. That whole leap of faith thing, like, they don't have a clue either. None of them do. They're all struggling with it just as much as Miles was, but kind of having that leap of faith is doing it anyway, and they understood that, and then they were able to teach that to him, and I really liked that. Also, soundtrack, banging. Absolutely bang. That soundtrack is one of the best soundtracks to any Marvel film that has ever existed. For about 3 weeks afterwards, that's all I listened to, that soundtrack. It's so good, it was so good, and it just fit in. It fit in with Miles as well, like it wasn't just playing over the top. He was listening to Sunflower, that was very much it. He was singing throughout the movie, he jumped in with that, and he would use that when he wanted to relax, and it was very good because it sort of was an over-the-top thing, sort of played over the top of some scenes, but also it really tied in with the characters and fit with the characters and was also part of them, and it was just so well done. It was just, it's such a good soundtrack, it's absolutely amazing. It was just done so well, and the way it was incorporated within the movie as well was absolutely fantastic. It wasn't just, oh, we're going to play these songs over the top of some scenes. It was very much in and part of the movie, and I loved that. I love it when they do that. Music can do so much with a movie to make scenes and to just make it so amazing, and it really did that. I also loved that we got to see some villains that we have not necessarily seen or haven't seen in a while. Another part which made it really feel like a comic book is that they explored so many of the comic book villains. Obviously in the movies that we've had dating back, you know, Tobey Maguire ones, Andrew Garfield ones, we've had Doc Ock and we've had Green Goblin, as well as a couple of others. Doc Ock, the way she was done in this, Olivia Octavius, was done so well. I loved it when they said who she was. I was like, yes, like they revamped the character of Doc Ock, and I just thought it was done so well, and I absolutely loved her. She was fantastic. We had Prowler, we had Kingpin, we had Scorpion, we had Tombstone, and it was characters that have been that were introduced in the comics years and years ago that people might not know about, and there were so many villains that came from the comic books that were coming out because it was exploring such a wide area of the Spider-Verse, and I guess that's exactly what it was. It was the Spider-Verse. It was all these aspects of the Spider-Verse coming to life and coming into this movie, and I loved that. I loved there was so much variety of who was there and so many characters they introduced, and I thought it was so good. I also guessed as well that Prowler was going to be Miles's uncle. That whole thing, learning that people that might not necessarily be who you thought they were, and kind of those differences. That's what I also love about it, is that it's not just this superhero jam-packed action thing. There's that theme of family in there, of relationships, of people, and the relationships you can have with people and the different relationships you can have with people, and that was present in every version of the Spider people that we had, and I absolutely loved that and thought it was done very well. Also, Aunt May, fucking boss. She's just the queen. I love her. I love her in every... I mean, my love for her grew tenfold when Marissa Tomei took on that role, because Marissa Tomei's Aunt May, queen, but I loved Aunt May in this. She was amazing. When Miles went back, she just sat there like the absolute boss that she is. Loved her. Absolutely amazing. I mean, May has dealt with so much throughout her life, and there's so much she's had to do that I feel like she's a very underrated character, but in this she was an absolute queen, and I loved her. I just thought this movie was done so well. I was just absolutely engaged the whole time I was watching it. I went to see it on my own, and I was just sat, and I was just captivated by it. I was just so happy. I had this massive smile on my face the whole time I was watching it. It was just done so well. From that opening kind of sequence to the very end, I felt like I was part of these comic books, like these comic books had come to life, and they're funny. That's what these comic books do as well, and it was just done so well, and I loved it. I was expecting a Stan Lee cameo, but also not as much, because he's in all of them, but because it was animated, I don't know, I knew he was going to be in it, but also when I saw him I was like, oh, when he made the comment about knowing that guy, knowing Spider-Man, and it's you know, it still sucks. It still really does suck. But it was really nice that he got to be part of that one as well. And, you know, and I hope they continue to make him a part of the rest of the ones that continue. You know, he'll probably be in Endgame and Far From Home, I can imagine, because they had both wrapped when he unfortunately passed away. But the ones after that, I hope they still make him a part of it, because it feels complete when you have Stan Lee in Marvel films. Wouldn't be there without him, so it was really nice that he was in that as well. So yeah, I'd love to know what you thought of Into the Spider-Verse. It is honestly up there with one of my favourite films, favourite animated films and favourite films ever. It was so good, so well done, and I loved it, so I'd love to discuss it with you in the comments. Thank you guys for watching. If you are new here, then I make videos about books and fandom-y things a couple of times a week, so if you'd like to stick around and join us, then you can do that. I hope you guys are doing really well, and I will see you next time. Bye!